Weymouth Woods Sandhills Natural Preserve is in the southern part of North Carolina. It's around the town of Southern Pines and Pinehurst. And on the way here, we noticed that this area has a lot of horse farms, and the place just looks really picturesque coming in. And you can tell there's a little money around here, you know, everything's kept just pristine. Weymouth Woods State Natural Preserve here has 3 different areas. There is the Weymouth Woods Tract, there is the Boyd Tract, and there is the Paint Hill Tract. This park was established in 1963. In the early 1800s, the pine trees around here produced tar that was really useful to seal boats and stuff like that. With the arrival of the railroad, there was large-scale logging and almost destroyed the forest here. The State Parks and Recreation Department purchased some land here to preserve the Longleaf Pine forest that is here. And that's really the primary reason why this natural area is here. There are over 500 unique species here, and you can find eastern fox squirrels, white-tailed deer, raccoon, cottontail rabbits, and gray squirrels here. The state park folks actually do prescribe burns here because the pine cones need the fire in order to open up and for the seed to come out. So they actually have to have fire in order to propagate. So the department here does now prescribe burns to enable that to happen. The trails here are quite nice. They're sandy because we are, after all, in the Sandhills. And we're just basically walking through the trees with the tall pines, and very pleasant. There isn't a signature site to speak of here at Weymouth Natural Preserve here, but it's just generally walking along the big tall longleaf pines. There's hiking trails here, but there's also lots of equestrian trails. There are lots of horse farms around here, so it's very natural to have equestrian trails in the park. Here at the Weymouth Woods Tract, there's a bunch of different trails that crisscrosses. You can do shortcuts and all that good stuff, but we did the 3.6 mile loop that consists of a bunch of different trails put together.
It starts out with BOWER'S Bog Trail, then Lightly Stump Trail, Pine Island Trail, then we went all the way around the Holly Road Trail, back across to the MOCCASIN crossing, then the Gum Swamp Trail, and now we're on the final leg at the Pine BARRENS Trail, back to the visitor center.
Yeah, it goes up and down just a little bit, maybe a couple of 100 feet of elevation change. It goes through very different kinds of wooded areas, some very thick, and right here I guess it's called barren pines because they must have done some prescribed burn earlier. You can see the remnants of the burned out logs here, so the underbrush is not that severe. When we started the trail in the beginning, there was an area where they just did the burn a year ago, and that area is very, the underbrush is very thin, as you would expect. And then you go through some areas where there are very few pine trees, but a lot of broadleaf trees, oak trees, and so on. You go across some ponds that are part of a creek that goes through. And you get really nice variety of different scenery here. A young tree, longleaf pine tree, looks like this. And then a older brother of the tree looks like this. And then it gets even taller, and now it looks like this. And eventually it gets really big, and it looks like this. Different stages of life here, and they all look beautiful. And then of course you have some that don't quite make it, that end up looking like this. This area is called the Sandhills for a reason, because there's lots of sand here. And look at this white sand in this particular area. interspersed with pine needles.
This is the pine straw on the floor, and it's a lot longer than the normal pine straw that we see back home. And this one is from the Longleaf Pine.
That's why the leaves are long.
That's why they're long, yeah. It's all over.
On one side of the trail is where they had done the prescribed burn about a little over a year ago, and you can see nice opening, lots of sun on the forest floor, you know, a few burnt remnants here, and for the pine cones to open up and the seed to pop out. On the other side of the road, on this other side of the trail, you see very thick underbrush here that's preventing from the seedlings to grow. And you know, this is certainly not a year old, but I think this is an example of a new pine tree that's sprouting up. That was the lighter stump trail, and this is the Pine Island trail, and the feel is completely different. Back there, it was a lot of open area, maybe because they did a prescribed burn, but here we're in the middle of the thick woods, and you notice that there is all sorts of other trees here besides the pine trees now. Some of the broader leaf trees, and just completely different feel all of a sudden.
You know me and trails. We don't get along. We make the wrong turn and we'll be lost. So I'm just examining it to make sure.
Now, I think she's traumatized from the national park trips, because earlier today she was asking me about whether or not there are bears here. No, Loretta, there are no bears here.
Well, there are bears in North Carolina, I guess in the mountains.
In the mountains, yes, but around here, I don't think they have bears.
No bears.
The Moccasin Crossing Trail crosses this nice little pond in the middle of this woods here. You know, it makes it really looks nice. We also got the answer to why some of the trees have a white band around it. They mark those trees because that's a nesting. They mark those trees because that's the nesting tree for a endangered woodpecker species here. And so that they mark them so that when they do prescribed burns, they clear the area around that tree, because the sap for that tree is actually highly flammable. So they clear the area around that tree so that it doesn't catch on fire and hurt the tree, and then therefore hurting the woodpecker. The Boy Track area, which is actually very, very difficult to find, has the oldest known living longleaf pine and a former state champion longleaf tree. We've managed to find a little bit of a trail connection at the corner of East Delaware and Piney Lane. And if you look down here, there's a little sign that kind of tells you that right here is the park boundary. So we're gonna go explore. This is what the trail looks like. But if you look around, it's basically a neighborhood. There's no real parking area, so we parked on the side of the road. And here we go. Let's see what we can find. Now we're looking for the state champion tree, and we don't see any signs, and according to the map, it's supposed to be right around here. Based on what we can tell, based on the location and what we see, that is probably the former state champion longleaf pine. I wish there's a sign for it, but there isn't, so we can only guess, and that's our guess, that this is the former state champion for the longleaf pine. We're searching for the oldest longleaf pine. Even though there are absolutely no signs that we can find, my speculation is that this right here is the oldest known longleaf pine. Where, I don't know. North Carolina, the world, I don't know. But there are no signs here, so who knows? But that's one got a little hole in the bottom, and I don't know, it just looks old, so maybe that's it. If anybody else knows, please comment below. The Paint Hill Track, part of Weymouth State Natural Area is down this road. What's the name of the road, Loretta?
Stonyfield Drive.
Stonyfield Drive. Now, there is absolutely no sign about the park off of the what I call the main road in East Indiana. You just have to know that that's the road, and you come down this neighborhood road, and all of a sudden at the end of the road, boom, there's a parking area for about 3 or 4 cars with a sign, and here we are.
We are on the PYXIE Moss Trail.
It's a little area. It's about what, a mile for this trail?
Yeah, 0.8.
A loop.
0.8 loop.
So it's a nice, pleasant little walk. I'm not quite sure I would call it a hike, but call it a walk.
There's only 2 trails here. It's the PYXIE Moss Trail and the Fox Squirrel Loop.
Well, the Painted Hill section is kind of like the other section. Not so much different, except the trails are a little bit overgrown, maybe because not as many people come here, or it's not maintained as much. And you do get the sandy trail, the white sands in the trail, and the tall longleaf pines. So it's very, very similar.
We are in Weymouth. We are in Weymouth State Natural Preserve.
Weymouth Woods, Sandhills Natural Area.
Okay, that's where we are. And it's time for our lunch. This time we're at Jersey Mike's. You can eat there.
Sorry, Subway, you are everywhere, which is what makes you really wonderful when we go on these trips. But we found Jersey Mike's, and sorry, Subway, Jersey Mike's makes a better sandwich. So we decided to get it from Jersey Mike's. It is our standard fare, so to speak, for these hiking and trips.
And I will say, I did not go order it, so I have no clue what he has ordered for us to eat.
Here is a sandwich.
Yummy.
So I will say that Jersey Mike's that we went to was wonderful, and the lady put a lot of meat in it, and the people were super friendly. I mean, look at that. Look at the amount of meat, pretty thick, and it was pretty nice looking rare, roast beef with some red to it, so which is great. We are on our way to visit all the national parks in the United States. Follow along by hitting the subscribe button below. Hit the notification bell so you know when a new video is released. Give it a thumbs up if you like this video, and please share it with everybody that you know.